AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Spinorama's Michigan goals, a sprawling save across the crease. Live and breathe all the highlight moments with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers, bet $5 and if your bet wins, you'll get 200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into 200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved.
Yep. Episode 125.
Thank you, Avril Lavigne.
As always.
Fantasy Lens.
Fantasy Lens episode. Guys, midweek episode. And we have a special guest today.
Yeah, we're going to do things a little different, a little less fantasy specific, but a topic that's very interesting, at least to start this year. Rebuilding versus retooling.
But in a way, this could kind of correspond to fantasy because a lot of GMs, fantasy GMs, have the same kind of question marks and the same kind of problems when it comes to these kind of questions. So to help us along with that, we brought in...
Let's start. All right, let's introduce him. So our guest this week is a member of Talking Hockey team. Talking Hockey is an account, is a 360 degrees hockey account from funny memes, videos, and analytic data to help you understand the recent NHL player and team trends. Without further ado, let's welcome from Talking Hockey, Eric.
Thanks for the intro, guys.
Wow, that was a choppy one.
Yeah, well, usually you bring a lot more energy.
I do. I don't know. I'm nervous. Eric makes me nervous.
Eric makes you nervous.
It's because
in a good way.
He just seems more intelligent than all three of us, so we might be in trouble.
Well, that's for sure.
Well, the second you mention analytic data, we're like, oh, we're doomed.
Yeah. I mean, people listen to us for the stupidity.
I mean, the analytics we provide are like shooting percentage and goal save above expected. Like
Guys,
that's our cutoff.
He has a 30% shooting percentage, so it's not going to last.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. That's our go-to line, actually. Eric, welcome. Where can people find your work? Tell us who you are. And I'm actually really excited because I've watched some of your videos and died of laughter. So I hope people follow along after this.
Yeah, guys. So thanks so much for the intro. And honestly, that Avril Lavigne AI song was really, really, really good. I was really impressed by that. Honestly, I wasn't expecting 700
tries.
I wasn't expecting much when you said it's an AI Avril Lavigne song, but okay, hit the nail on the head there. So Talking Hockey. You can find us at Talking Hockey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, anywhere you go. We're basically a combination of a few different things. We started off as like an hockey analysis account on Instagram, talking analytics, player evaluation, team evaluation, and everything like that. And then evolved into a combination of that along with my partner, Nick, who does all the funny TikToks that you guys see out there. mainly around goalie content, but he kind of touches on everything. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Nice, very nice. Junior, I think you wanted to start off with some questions
Yeah. Okay. So let's
about the New York Rangers.
about the New York Rangers. Well, he'll tell us if that's what they need to do. But how about we start? Like, what exactly is a rebuild?
So that's a good question. So I guess I started off that story thread, since this is all just based off of a couple Instagram stories that I posted a couple days ago. And I was basically just describing the differences between a retool and a rebuild. And I basically broke it down into a rebuild is a science and a retool is an art. And the whole reason for that is that, to your question, a rebuild is a really defined like path that you go down. You tank, you sell off all your assets, you get those top 5 picks for 2 to 5 years, or in some teams' cases, endlessly. Go back to Edmonton before they got Connor McDavid, or Philly right now, or the Sabres and their never-ending rebuild, or whoever it is. You tank for multiple years, you get a whole bunch of high draft picks, and then you continue to build out the team from there. It's a really established path that teams take, and everyone knows when a team is rebuilding, right? It's like very obvious. Whereas I said retooling is an art in 2 different ways, because number one, it's actually kind of really hard to tell if a team is really retooling or they're just continuing to build up the team. And at the same time, if they are retooling, it's really difficult to actually pull off a proper retool, way harder than pulling off a rebuild. A rebuild, everyone knows the path forward, and we can get into detail on what that path is. But with a retool, it's very subjective, right? It changes with every single team, with every single piece that they have, or every single asset that they have as a part of their team. And so that's why I say retooling is an art, because it's so subjective and it's so easy to fall between the lines of doing it well and doing it poorly. Whereas a rebuild, if you really fail at a rebuild, you're kind of incompetent, is my just fully brutally honest take on it. I think there's a difference between failing a rebuild and just not fully succeeding with the rebuild, because obviously the full success of a rebuild is you build a dynasty like the Blackhawks or Penguins or Tampa or whatever, or on the lower end, you win like 1 cup or something like that, right? And I think no matter what, if you win, you're determined as successful. But I think even if you end up competing for 5, 7, 8 years, you can say at least your rebuild part was successful, but you weren't successful in actually building a contender, right? And I think those are 2 different things. Retooling is really difficult on the other side, because if you're a middling team or on the bottom end of the league, do you retool? Do you rebuild? Do you have the right pieces in place? So it's so subjective, and that was kind of the conversation that I wanted to have, and that's why I kind of posted all those stories.
What was the feedback in the comments?
Oh man, so we have anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 people looking at our stories on any single post. So there can be anywhere from like 10 messages to like hundreds of messages, depending on the feedback. Obviously, this post was revolving around the Rangers, and so probably the second biggest market in the NHL after the Leafs, and so lots of responses around what the Rangers should do, what they shouldn't do. Are they really hopeless, or are they just suffering right now? Panarin was on a little bit of a cold streak, but then he's been killing it ever since. If you guys are a fantasy hockey podcast, you probably have talked about that.
Since he shaved his head.
Yeah, there you go.
We really go into the analytics.
That impacts his speed. That impacts his ability to
aerodynamic.
Yeah, exactly. So lots of responses on the Rangers side of things and what they should do and everything like that. And up to you guys if you want to dive deep down into that. But
well, now that you mentioned it, like at what point should an organization consider a rebuild?
I think once you've established that the core group of players on your team are never going to have the skill or the capacity to bring your team to that kind of top 10, top 8 team level, essentially. That's kind of when you got to decide whether you're rebuilding or not. If you look at the Canucks as an example, they're kind of in this dilemma right now, right? They know, Quinn Hughes is amazing, Pettersson's amazing, but outside of that, they just don't have enough of that core group to actually take them into the West. So now they're on the verge. Okay, do we just rebuild? Do we trade Quinn Hughes? What do we do on that level? So I think you have to look at that top 5 or 6 guys and basically make a decision. Is this a group that can take us there, or do we need to restart from the ground up? And that's when you know.
Yeah, because the thing with Vancouver also is they know if they don't change anything, Quinn Hughes isn't re-signing with them in 2 years.
Exactly.
So they're going to lose him for nothing. So at this point, it's either they start building up that core, which I don't think they could, or they start, like, you sell Quinn Hughes now, you get more for him than if he is a year into UFA, because he can go wherever he wants. And he has no trade clause. Like, he has
no protection, but he kind of has a little leverage anyway.
He has leverage.
He had now when he has 2 years left on his contract, so it's not so bad. At least he's stuck with that.
Does
team
he have
for a
2?
year.
No,
Yeah.
I think this is his
I think
final
this is
year.
last year.
No,
He's got
year
2
and a half.
years.
Two
He's got
years.
this year and then
Oh.
next
And
year.
next
So
year, that's what I'm
someone's
saying.
yeah.
If they trade him now, at least it's
Yeah.
But a team that's trading for him is going to want some security in. Or if you're coming to us, you're coming for a long-term contract.
Yeah.
They're not going to give up all the assets in the world for a 1 year.
no, exactly.
Well, I think it depends actually, because even to your point, right? It's Quinn Hughes, right? If
Yeah.
you can get Quinn Hughes for a year and a half, and you're, I don't know, a top 2 or 3 team in your division, that probably takes you to being that division winner, right? Or that, coming out of that division or conference. So the thing is, though, if you are making that trade for Quinn Hughes, you can't give up current assets,
Yeah.
right? You are limited there
And you
because
have to have the cap space as well.
cap space and no current
7.85.
assets.
It's not that bad, actually.
And from a fantasy perspective too, like if you want to rebuild, the time is like if you feel like you're stagnant in your dynasty league and you're constantly in the middle of the pack, you got to make a decision. You either start selling assets to really go get a superstar, or it's time to sell away your assets to start over.
Well, how difficult was a retool? Like, we've seen Washington retool, and Washington is like the epitome of what a retool should look like. But how many teams have tried that and failed, right?
yeah.
We live in Montreal.
Yeah,
We were
we lived
retooling
it
for
for so
20
long.
for 15 years. We've been retooling until they finally decided, let's rebuild. With the Bergevin era, it was all about that, Eric. It was about, let's retool, make the playoffs, and anything could happen. Or let's,
Because you had Carey Price.
yeah, and
It's
let's
like that year that he signed Jonta Camilleri, and then they went on that playoff run.
the
Then
worst-
they did it again with Toffoli and
the worst
Hoffman.
year. The worst year was when they made the playoffs and they signed, I think it was Ott.
No, that was the deadline.
was a
That was
Trade
that
deadline.
Trade deadline,
Ott, like it was just ridiculous. With the
What was that free agency year where they
King.
went in on like Carl Osner and like all those guys?
my
Like
God,
was that 2016 free agency
so.
year?
I think
That
so,
was
yeah.
a disaster.
No,
that was a
but-
complete disaster.
But that's
It
that's
set us back.
But that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's where he was trying to retool the team, and it was a complete failure. He went after the number one free agent asset that was there, which was Carl Osner at that point, and it completely failed.
Some bad pro scouting.
yeah.
There are only 5 to 7 GMs probably in the league that actually can successfully pull off a retool. I think that's my kind of guess, because it's just so difficult. You have to have a combination of multiple different things. One, you have to draft extremely well. Washington, like you said, like your example, right? Incredible drafting, even though they haven't had top 5 or many even top 10 picks, right? You have to be able to use free agency well. You have to evaluate players really well, and you have to manage cap space efficiently. If you can't do those 4 things, you cannot do a proper retool. Whereas if you're doing a proper rebuild, you only need to draft decently well because you're still getting high-end picks, and you need to manage your cap space efficiently. So that's why retooling is so much more difficult than a rebuild. I think there should be at least 10, 15 GMs in the league that could pull off a decent enough rebuild, but there's only probably 5 or 7 GMs in the league that actually can pull off a retool. Probably Washington's GM, Florida, maybe Tampa, Carolina, maybe the Bruins manager. Very few.
And I think Tampa was kind of good at rebuilding and retooling. Like they knew when to sell off on Stamkos. They didn't keep him till he had till he was a detriment to the team.
Well,
And
not only
they took that cap space and they went to acquire, like, instead of spending, first round picks on guys, they took that and they filled up the rest of their team.
It didn't start with Stamkos with Tampa Bay. It started with not re-signing Le Cavalier,
Yeah,
not re-signing Saint Louis.
But that was
Yeah,
their
if you want to
rebuild
go
time.
back that far, yeah.
Like you go back that far with Tampa Bay, they didn't sign those two guys, but they knew they had other stars coming in. So it was
I'd say St. Louis was able to mold Stamkos quite a bit, and then they let him go to New York,
and then
and then the whole Stamkos era started. And
then the Hedman, and then from there they're
Kuch.
point second round. It's
I mean, trading Drouin for Sergachev helps.
Yeah.
And then they're
like
willing to let those guys go. They let
Yeah.
Sergachev go. They let Andre Plot go. They let Stamkos go. They're
Right.
willing to let these guys go. And there's so many teams that just hold on.
For too long.
If you look at like the Blackhawks, the reason their dynasty ended, they held on way too long to some of those guys. Brent Seabrook should have been moved after that 2015 win for sure. There's so many guys that they just held on to instead of just being ruthless with it, cut out the fat and bring new guys in. Especially if you have players that go through multiple cup runs, right? Guys are worn down. They've got injury after injury after injury. They're tired. Might lose a little bit of that motivation, that drive if you have 2 or 3 cups under your belt, right? So you have to have that ruthlessness as well.
And
You have to have the coaching as well, right? Like, we look at Washington. Washington has Carberry, who is very good at making people play his system. And even if you're a stranger, you come in and you're able to do it. Florida has it with Paul Maurice, right? There was like 4 or 5 guys coming into the team every year, and they play the Florida style. There's no like, okay, you get to do your own thing, right?
Yeah.
And a big failure in that is Nashville. Nashville tried the retool.
Well, the thing
And
is,
they just failed. And
I think an important component to what you're saying too is the culture of the organization.
Yeah.
What kind of culture you have,
Yeah.
right? So that starts at the top, and we see all the successful retooling teams had a great culture, a great organization.
right. Yeah.
But Eric, let's say rebuild. You in the NHL, there's a lot of groups that are rebuilding this year or have been rebuilding. In your opinion, whose rebuild is going well or really well, and which ones are like stagnant?
Yeah.
Where I'm not gonna say failure, but are really like
Why are you talking about
Sabres,
Buffalo?
Sabres.
Sabres is always the answer to what's going wrong in the NHL. In any given year.
Well, we were on the verge of saying Detroit as well at one point. This
Yeah.
year seems to be a little bit better.
The
but,
eyes are planning.
Yeah.
the eyes
So
are planning.
which teams do you see in the NHL now? Like, because there's so many young players that are
Yeah.
like Anaheim, San Jose, Chicago. So in your aspect, which one do you think is really the rebuild is really ahead of schedule?
So starting off with the teams that have kind of not exited their rebuild, but have pushed past the point where they're not not going to need to keep on collecting these top end picks. Obviously, the Devils and Canadians, right? Canadians are done being at bottom 5, bottom 10 team in the league. They're not at they're nowhere close to a contender yet. Obviously, they still have to develop a lot of their guys. They still need to bring the right pieces in. But I think the Canadians and the Devils pulled off the rebuilds extremely well. Brought in a lot of that elite talent, developed their players really well, supplemented them with the right players overall, and then are cleaning up their cap tables as well.
Yeah.
Montreal has Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher leaving, I think after this season, or it might be one more season for one of them.
I think Gallagher has one more after this one.
There you go, right? So Canadians are going to be in a really great position. That's on the East. On the West, I mean, I guess there's no teams that really did that full rebuild as of yet. If
Well,
you go into them, yeah.
I would say Anaheim probably is.
Well, that was I was
closest.
going to put them in the middle tier almost, because I still think Anaheim, they're leading the Pacific somehow, but I don't think they're that's not a sustainable, I think, path
Pace.
for them realistically. But they are they're probably closer to Montreal than they are to the Sabres or whatever else in terms of the path through that rebuild.
I would
And
agree.
that's mainly because they have some rookies right now or second or third year players that are absolutely killing it, right? Like Leo Carlson's insane.
Yeah.
Seneca is insane. Some of their defensemen like Lacombe, who's come up, is insane. Their goaltending is incredible. They have a lot
Cutter
of good pieces
Gauthier.
there.
Cutter
Cutter
Gauthier was
Gauthier.
a nice little
What does he have?
trade.
14 goals this year already or something?
14
15
goals, 150 shots.
I think he leads the NHL in shots just after McKinnon. It's him and McKinnon, the top 2 shooters in the NHL.
There
Which
you
is
go.
very
Right. So
impressive.
and again, that's good drafting. Like, yeah, they had Leo Carlson at second overall, but a lot of these other guys weren't top two, top three picks, right? So again, good drafting on Anaheim side. Lacombe was the second round pick, so a lot of good drafting overall. Yeah, and so into that middle tier, the guys that are kind of coming out of the rebuild. I think Anaheim is one of them. I think Senators kind of are one of them. Like, they're not, but Senators are kind of weird because they've been like this eternally rebuilding team now for a decade. So I don't know.
We're gonna get so much hate for this. They already hate us enough, Sens fans, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the teams that are going into the rebuild or just starting the rebuilds right now is kind of like, I don't know, like the Blue Jackets, again, they've been rebuilding forever now.
Yeah.
To an extent. Sabres have obviously been rebuilding forever now as well. Maple Leafs are probably going to have to retool realistically, bottom out for 1 year and then hope to come back next year a little bit stronger. Rangers are kind of interesting. Again, retooling situation, not really a rebuilding situation. Then Predators are just starting the rebuild, right? Like, they just got top 5 pick last year, and they're going to have to do that for another couple of years. Canucks and Flames, both are going to need. I mean, Flames have to rebuild. Like, they don't have any choice.
No,
they're a complete disaster. It's just they don't have anything in the organization right now that's on the team that I think is going to be there longer term outside of like some of their rookies. Canucks, again, they don't have a choice if Quinn Hughes is leaving, right? They're gonna be forced into a rebuild, or they're gonna choose to rebuild, right? The worst case scenario is being forced into a rebuild, in my opinion. That's why I thought the Flames years ago should have rebuilded, because now they're forced into a rebuild instead of being able to trade all these guys earlier on for way more than they were probably worth at the time. So yeah, that's kind of the landscape right now.
Well, you mentioned Toronto, and you mentioned a possible retool for Toronto. Being somebody from Toronto, what does that what does that entail for you? What do you think how would that look kind of in order to bring Toronto back to a contender, a cup contender, and not just a playoff team? Because right now they feel like just a playoff team.
So this year, I think there's two directions the season can go right now. They rebound and they scrape into the playoffs, or they really just need to tank and go into the draft with hopefully a top 5 pick, because their first right now is with the Bruins, and they only have a top 5 protected, which for Brandon Carlo out of all players, which is my whole other issue that I had even at the time of the trade. I was like, this is ridiculous. But anyways, so they either need to drive for that top 5 pick or scrape in the playoffs, because like the worst case scenario is you're giving the Bruins like 6th overall or something like that, right? Like, that's just worst case scenario by far. And they don't have their second, and I don't think they have their second. Like, there's no. The Leafs literally cannot rebuild. They actually physically can't, because they do not have their first rounders for the next like 2 years or 3 years or something like that. Like, there's no choice. They cannot rebuild. So the only choice is, like we said, a retool. Now, what are the paths forward for the Leafs? I think number one, assuming they get two scenarios again, if they get that top 5 pick, that's a player that's ready in 1 or 2 years, most likely, which means that's an impact player in 2 years, which means that continues your cycle and you're able to kind of compete longer term. If they scrape into the playoffs, it's going to be even worse next year, I think, in a lot of ways, potentially, because that D-core, everyone's 35, 36, 37, 34, whatever, like, they're all old. They're all slow. None of them are puck-moving defensemen. So if you're looking at how to fix the Leafs, they've got to at least bring in 2 new defensemen, I'd say. Somehow. I don't know who's going to be available in free agency at this point, because everyone's been signed, basically. But you've got to figure out the defensive side. And you've got to probably fix your depth, because, again, they brought in all these big, slower guys, which is not, despite all the narrative about how Vegas is huge and Florida's huge and all this stuff, Florida plays fast, and you need to bring in players that can play fast, even if they're not physically fast. And none of the Leafs bottom 6 right now fit that criteria. So that's kind of the path forward.
The pending UFAs are Rasmus Anderson, John Carlson, and Jacob Trouba. Those are the top 3 defensemen available in free agency.
And Toronto draft this year, Toronto has their 3rd, their 5th, and San Jose's 6th.
That's it?
That's it. They really need to get, if
Yeah.
they're gonna go through a retool, especially I had told these guys last episode that Toronto at this point needs. They were laughing at me, but at some point after the holidays, if they see that they're not getting better, they just need to shut down Austin Matthews
Yes.
and basically
100%.
and basically just tying to the bottom, at least the top 5, like you said, because or else you can't take a risk on the lottery to bring the lot to make it that the lottery brings you to the top 5, because then that's just way too risky for some. So I told them, I go, just get Austin Matthews down, Nylander injured, like it doesn't matter, just put people injured, because it's just
Where we laughed was just
can't do that.
these players are not just gonna say and call it quits on a season and say, okay, yeah, I'm nicked up, just finish me for the
Yeah.
season. You know, that's the hard part.
Austin Matthews, we don't
Austin
even,
Matthews
we
is
don't even
different.
know
He's been
why.
injured for like a year and a half
We don't
now.
even know
Like,
why he's been injured. Like,
Yeah, the
it's
secrecy
so
is crazy.
Even with Stolars now, no one knows exactly what's wrong with Stolars. They just said he's lower body injury. Like,
Wool has been doing really
yeah,
well.
Wool has been good.
He's been
But
playing
you
really
know,
well
the worst thing that's happening to the Leafs right now is that they're only 5 points away from second in the division, and they have 2 games in hand on the Bruins. So management's like, we've got a clear chance still, and that's the worst thing because
Worst possible situation.
worst possible
Hope.
situation because now
Hope
they're just
is
going to
always-
make moves to try to make the playoffs instead of just seeing how this goes with what you have.
but they can't. Like,
and they'll set them back even further.
but they can't even make moves because they have no draft picks. They can't sell their young guys. I mean, you're not trading Cohen away. You're not trading you have no young guys to trade.
Those are the guys they have to if they want to make a move. So it'll be
I don't
interesting.
Eric, you spoke about Calgary a bit. Do you think Calgary having Wolf and Perek is a good start to a rebuild?
I mean, I think that from that perspective, it's incredible, right? You already got your 2 future. You hopefully got your number 1 and your number 1 D, and you've got most likely your number 1 goalie as well. Again, hopefully goaltending's voodoo. You guys are in fantasy hockey, you know that.
Especially
Right?
this year.
Oh my god, I we can talk. This is a whole other episode about the trends with goaltending and scoring and everything like that, because it's insane what we've seen over the last few years in terms of like the rising scoring levels. Right? Remember when people in 2016, Ben won the Hart. Jamie Benn won the Art Ross with like 80 to 82 points.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And now we're talking about like McDavid or McKinnon on pace for I think 145 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's a completely different game now. But that aside, yeah, Calgary's got some nice pieces, but they don't have their number 1 C prospect. They've got a couple really good prospects in their system, but overall, they're still missing that number 1, number 2 overall pick. And if you look at the scoring leaderboard right now, who's in the top 5 scoring? It's McKinnon, McDavid, Celebrini, Bedard, and Leo Carlson. I think that's the top 5.
Yeah.
So 4 number 1 picks and 1 number 2 pick, right? So you have to get that top 3 pick, or you're not going to be a cup contender realistically. Go back to every single cup winner over the last I don't know how many years. None of them have won without a first, second, or third overall pick, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you have to get that, and unfortunately for Flames fans, they waited way too long, way longer than they should have. If they just did this rebuild a couple years ago, after they lost Johnny Hockey, rest in peace.
It was the
they
time.
would have been in a
Yeah.
much better place.
That and I think the Kachuk trade is what literally killed them. That's when they were supposed to start a rebuild on that Kachuk trade. Instead of getting Huberdeau, they should have gone to get like
Just
a,
get
a
assets.
Lundell, a lot more assets.
Was that
than-
Tree Living?
Yes.
Yes, it
Yes, it was.
Interesting.
And I had a whole issue with Leafs hiring him in the first place because again, he didn't do anything well in Calgary. I don't know. Like the problem with the NHL is just like once you become a GM, you will forever be able to be a
Yeah.
GM and
Some
you'll
boys,
just cycle through.
Yeah.
No matter how poorly you perform, like the Flames were a mediocre organization his entire tenure. I think they had a couple random years where they did really well. When Monahan, Gaudreau, and
Kachuk. I think they were
and
both.
Kachuk
Yeah.
had an insane line. Giordano had like a Norris winning year. Like you can't you can't build a career off of Mark Giordano at like 40 winning the Norris. You know what I mean? Like that's ridiculous. So, he had no success and then goes into Toronto and screws it all up.
Doesn't Dave Nonis still have an NHL job?
Yeah, he does. I think is it with like Saint who is it with?
I
Is
think
it
it's.
with
I think it's.
St. Louis or something? I'm sure someone can look that up.
Probably some mediocre team.
I don't know if
I
anybody
actually think
does.
it's the Flames right now. I think he's assistant
Even
general
better.
manager
Oh, great.
Oh my
for-
god.
to
Okay.
Craig Conroy. Anyways, that was.
Eric, I just want to touch on, because I know in your stories you did mention the Rangers and it was a big
Yeah, it's
topic.
with the Calgary Flames. He's a VP of hockey operations.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
That
Anyways.
explains so much about the Flames organization, the decisions that they make.
Okay, well, just to go back to the Rangers, I know you said they don't have the management to do a proper retool, but do they have the assets to
Yes.
possibly retool?
Like that's the thing about what's been so frustrating about the Rangers build, because let's go back a few years, right? They bottom out, and then not even really truly bottom out. They just got so lucky on back-to-back lotteries where they raised like 7 ranks or 8 ranks or something, like something insane, right? And they get blessed with a first overall and a second overall in back-to-back years, in years where they were really almost fighting for a wild card spot for most of the year, right?
Yeah.
So they get absolutely blessed. They also get blessed with Panarin, who comes to them out of free agency, and Adam Fox, who manipulates his way from Carolina and the Flames to the Rangers. So they get a number 1 winger, they get a number 1 D, they get blessed with the first overall, they get blessed with the second overall pick within like a 2 or 3 year window, basically.
With
and
Lundqvist
somehow.
Yeah,
with starting with Lundqvist net and then moved over to Shesterkin, which is like the most insane transition you could ever have, right? You go from the best goalie in the league, or at least a top 2 goalie in the league, you know, you can have your Carey Price debate, all the way to Shesterkin being again a top 3 goalie in the league. You can debate between him and Hellebuck and, you know, whoever else in any given year, right? So they get blessed with all of this. And then they proceed to not have almost any of their draft picks actually succeed, basically, right? And none of their second rounders succeeded, or the thirds, or the fourths, or the fifths, or anything. All of their first rounders underachieved completely. You go back to even like Elias Anderson, which was, I don't even remember what year was that, 2017 or something like that,
he was
right?
traded to LA after, and
there you go. So just almost none of their first rounders worked out. Even the ones that did got traded away, right? So just complete disaster. But somehow they still, in this organization right now, have so many assets that they could theoretically use into turning things around too, right? They have a lot of picks still. They have a really bad prospect pool at the moment, but they still have some guys that they can trade. They have, again, they have Adam Fox. I'd argue top 3 defenseman in the NHL. Some people will disagree, but I have him number 3. They have Panarin still. They have really good scorers up front who've largely underperformed so far. They can, I think Lafreniere still has another gear to him. They have the pieces. I don't think it's as difficult to turn around as it should be. On the other hand, I don't see them ever becoming a cup contender realistically with the core of players that they have, because outside of Adam Fox and Shesterkin, they don't have that top-end player, those top-end players up front. And that's just unfortunate considering they had those first and second overall picks.
Since 2017, Rangers draft pick. In 2017, they had the 7th overall, Elias Anderson. In 2018, they had the 9th overall, Kravtsov. In 2019, they had the 2nd overall, Kako. In 2020, they had the 1st overall, Lafreniere. They had the 19th overall, Braden Schneider. 2021, they had the 16th overall, and they have Atman. Like, this is just
none. Like complete. And the worst part is, like, some of those picks didn't even make sense at the time too. It wasn't like, okay, we drafted Lafreniere and it sucks that he didn't become this superstar that a lot of people thought he would be. But like, Ottoman didn't make any sense. Braden Schneider never made any sense. I don't think Elias Anderson at the time, and from my perspective and the numbers I looked at, ever really made any sense. So it's just bad picks with being blessed with guys that they just couldn't develop. And I forget who made the point earlier, but it is coaching too, right? These guys just
gonna ask,
have never been developed in this organization at all.
Yeah.
Like if you're drafting some guys that are consensus number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever picks, and they're still not consistently working out in your organization, it's not drafting at this point. It's not the scouts. It's the player development internally plus coaching. And I think historically, the New York Rangers have chosen to bring in coaches. I'm going to ignore Mike Sullivan for a second, but coaches that did not develop their players internally well at all. Didn't give them the right ice time, never really gave them good opportunities. I don't know what the hell was going on behind the scenes in terms of developing them and working on their strengths and doubling down on that. But, that's a whole other story.
But fantasy managers, because we also draft players into our organizations after they've been drafted by the NHL teams. For many years, we avoid New York Rangers draft picks because they'll never be developed.
The only
No matter
one,
how good they look in the OHL or wherever, they just never will be developed.
the only one that really was touted was Gabe Perreault.
Yeah, I mean, but even there, like I was speaking to General Manager Batista, right? And he was telling me, like, I would love to get a Gabe Perreault. It scares me that he went to New York.
Yeah. Well, you know what? But like,
100%.
the worst part in all this is, you have a young guy and your development of these young players is not good, but you hang on to these players until their value is absolutely nothing. And then you give them away, obviously, and by then, I mean, they're probably discouraged. They don't pan out either with other teams, but Lafreniere, is it a really a development thing, or is it also like what came first? The bad
chicken or
development,
the-
or is it Lafreniere that maybe it's not as good?
Chicken or the egg scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think Lafreniere, I think there were some issues with his game going into his draft after Joffrey, and I think COVID had a lot of impact on that.
yeah.
And, there's a lot of things like that, issues like that. But the weird thing is, and you guys are in fantasy, like a lot of Lafreniere's underlying numbers over the last couple of years have actually been quite good. Right, you look at his per 60 assist rates, per 60 goal rates, his playmaking, a lot of his playmaking stats, his transition numbers, like a lot of the fundamental basis of what would typically guide you towards, okay, this guy maybe not going to be a superstar, but he can be easily a 65, 70, maybe hit 75 point winger at one point. And even going into the season, I thought, hey, if there's any season where he's going to break out, it's this year. Like I would take a flyer on him. If there's ever a time to take a flyer on him, this was the year to do it. And it hasn't worked out at all. It's completely wrong on that. But this was the year. And unfortunately, nothing has happened still.
He's also been through like 4 coaches, I think, in his his young NHL.
So, Eric, for Rangers to have a successful retool, like, I mean, even though you trade Panarin, you're only getting so much in return because everybody knows it's a UFA. And, I mean, teams are not stupid. They're not going to give you their best assets because he's a UFA. So what, like, besides Panarin, who do you see them trading away that they can get some assets back?
Well, hold on. You said teams aren't stupid, but I remember a Martin Erat for Forsberg trade.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
But that's what I'm saying. They can go for a draft pick, but they need, for Panarin, I think they're better off trying to get a prospect than a draft pick because Panarin goes to a playoff team, you're getting the first round in the 24th overall. Like, I mean, there's only certain players that get drafted that low that come and make a big impact. So how do they make this a successful retool?
So your framing, I think I disagree with the framing because I think you cannot retool if you trade Panarin. I think you have to rebuild if you trade Panarin.
So you suggest that they re-sign Panarin?
I think they have to re-sign Panarin if they want to move, if they want to try to if they want to try to be a playoff team for the next 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have to re-sign Panarin because if you look at the team, even if they trade Panarin this year, nothing they're going to get is going to be good for the next 2 or 3 years, most likely, right? Because again, when you trade these guys in free or before during the trade deadline, you're getting futures 90% of the time.
Right.
Occasionally you can do a player trade, whatever, but you're most likely going to get futures. So if they are going to try to contend with this core, you have to re-sign Panarin. You have to fix that bottom six. I mean, like, look at the guys in the bottom six. Like, none of these guys are players
Terrible.
completely garbage, right? But the good thing is fixing third and fourth lines is so easy.
Yeah.
Like, there's always so many of these guys roaming around from team to team to team to team every single year. Look at Tampa. They just fill random guys in every single year, plug and play. and they're able to compete.
Yep.
Right?
Just
Every
don't
single year.
spend first round picks on players that will do nothing for you, or
Brandon
that will be
Carlo?
depth players. What?
Brandon Carlo?
Brandon
Well,
Carlo or
Brandon
Scott
Carlos,
Lawton, but
Scott
like
Lawton, Nick
that's just-
Foligno,
yeah,
freaking like the worst.
Steve Ott.
Oh my God, Jesus! Like the worst part about the Leafs has been that they've consistently used their assets completely wrong, but they got completely blessed with one of the best cores in the NHL at the
Yes,
same
yeah.
time. But they just never supplemented them well, and everyone's gonna argue, no, it's the core, whatever. And I agree, there are issues with a lot of the players in the core. You can talk about Marner and all of his plethora of issues. You can talk about Matthews not being clutch in the playoffs, whatever you want. But teams don't win when you bring in Nick Foligno as your deadline signing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You have Chicago who bring in like Marian Hossa. You have
Yeah.
Boston that brought in Taylor Hall, and then you have the Leafs
Colorado
bringing in
with,
Nick
Bork.
Foligno. Yeah, and then you bring in Nick Foligno, and you're not gonna win a cup with that, right? So that's the difference. Anyways, getting back to New York, I think if you fix that third and fourth line, I think the top six is actually okay. I think if you go into next year with Panarin, Zibanejad, JT Miller, Lafreniere, Trocheck, I think you're okay. I think if you almost completely tear out that bottom six and replace them, I think you're in a much better position. And I think the defense is fine. You have Adam Fox, which is, on the same level, again, in my opinion, as Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar.
Yeah.
He's injured right now, unfortunate, but he will drive that defense. Gavrikov is only 30, so he's not going to, trend down for another 2 or 3 years. So you've got two really good top pairing defensemen. And then, again, I don't think it's too difficult to assume you can bring in one more defenseman to kind of solidify that second or third pairing. And then you have an all-star goalie in that.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is that one thing that really helps New York is that it's a destination for free
Yes.
agents. Free agents love going to New York. So if it's a bottom six issue or a second pairing, maybe third pairing defenseman issue, you could easily get those guys on free agency, and you don't have to offer them the world to come to New York because it's a destination place. So
The last point I want to make on the Rangers is just their contract situation doesn't allow them to retool because
Yes.
Zibanejad's he's 32, he's got 5 years left. JT Miller's 32, he's got 5 years left. That's $8 million plus. Trocheck 32, 4 years left. Lafreniere's got like a 7-year contract. So Gavrikov has 7 years left at $7 million. It's really hard to retool when you have those kind of contracts because other teams are not going to spend that much to get 7 years of a 32-year-old,
Yeah, New York's kind of in a similar position to the Leafs. They almost can't rebuild in a way. They have to just retool. But the good thing is like you look at their cap situation, they have $29 million going into next season. And assume 10-ish million of that goes to Panarin. The rest of it, they have basically nobody to re-sign for big money, right? Like Schneider needs a new contract. He's not going to make much. Carson Soucy needs a new contract. He's not going to make much. And then, you have a bunch of like fourth liners that need new contracts. So they have a ton of cap space to utilize. And again, like you said, they're a free agent destination. They can make some moves. I don't know what their pick situation is, but
Rangers, I'll get you that.
they have their own first. They have a conditional first from the Carolina Hurricanes. They've got a second, a third, a fifth, and a
It's not bad.
sixth. They've got picks.
That's
They've got
good.
picks.
yeah.
And they have their
I
first
think-
27 next year and the year after as well. So
Yeah, so they have picks to utilize. They're realistically, none of those picks are going to turn out into an NHL player anyways. So why not trade them? Bring in a couple. If you put in like two good players, new good players onto that team, plus fix the bottom third, fix the third and fourth line, plus hopefully get rebounds from some of their players, right? Like JT Miller hasn't been too good, Zibanejad hasn't been too great, Adam Fox is injured, whatever. I think you're at least a top 3 team in your division.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anything else, boys?
I think we've summed it up pretty
Yeah,
good.
I'm just curious. Nashville. I just. Like. They,
What?
Like, exactly.
Like what?
Like
What?
They have to go through a complete rebuild. Like, I mean, there's no retooling this team.
No, there's no retooling. It's not possible. They have nothing that they can use to actually properly retool. They need to fully rebuild. They don't have a core. Like, what's their
Exactly.
core?
Yeah.
31-year-old Forsberg and the 36-year-old Yossi, 35, sorry, 35-year-old Yossi, and then a 30-year-old all-star goaltender. Like, they have to rebuild. The good thing is they're forced into a rebuild because they're just so bad. And the real issue is going to be, is Barry Trotz actually going to
Survive.
handle the rebuild properly? Because I mentioned earlier, there's probably like 10, 15 GMs in the league that I think I would have confidence in doing a proper rebuild, and Barry Trotz is at the complete bottom of the list of people I would not trust at all to handle a rebuild. He's done. I think it's actually hard to argue he's done anything right since he got to Nashville. To an extent, he's
As a GM,
yeah. As a GM, as a coach, did
yeah, exactly.
incredible coaching career. You think he should have stayed there? Because as a GM, he's kind of ruined his legacy there a little bit.
Because
Hasn't done anything right.
they have assets to start the rebuild this year. I mean, you trade off Ryan O'Reilly, you're getting something in return. Steven Stamkos, all depending on if he turns it on or not. Philip Forsberg, I mean, you can get heaven and earth for Philip Forsberg when it comes
The
to
two guys you could really bank on is Yossi and
three.
Forsberg.
Why you're not keeping Saros?
Yeah, I don't know if his value is as high as those other guys though.
Goalies are hard to trade.
I know.
They're like he's inconsistent, especially since he signed that
but
deal.
look at the team he's playing. I think they would get the most out of Saros.
And he's a small goalie. You know how these dinosaur GMs think, right? Small
Yeah.
goalie.
Well, yeah, the only goals that have been getting drafted are 6'7" and taller in the past 3 years. It's ridiculous.
By the way, the Rangers did have a GM that you could trust in a rebuild, and he was starting it, Jeff Gordon.
That's right.
They let him go after that notice he sent to the league.
Yeah, he sent the
Bashing,
notice to the
yeah.
league that we got to start rebuilding. And
No, he sent that to his fans, but then he said something ridiculous. Was it about the referees or I don't know? Someone didn't get suspended or so. Oh no, it was player safety. It was George Paros.
Oh.
He sent out a public letter, like he like
Shaming
shaming him, and then the Rangers let him go because Bedman was probably like, you can't keep this guy.
When did Gordon get fired though? What year was that?
It was, I think, the year after Lafreniere, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was
So
there
then,
for that
if
time.
anything, he was the architect of their failed rebuild to an extent. In a lot
to
of
a
ways,
certain
too.
extent, you're right.
Because he was the one that failed to draft anyone from 2017 to 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he got fired in 2021.
there you go. So I think, if anything, he's largely responsible for the failed.
So maybe he learned from his
Rangers.
mistakes this time around. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see. I don't know. It's
I mean, I think all GMs, you give it. It's hard in some ways to fully assess a GM based on the moves that they make because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes from ownership, right?
That's right.
Like I always give like the Buffalo Sabres GMs a little bit of a break because the Sabres ownership are just a complete disaster. Like everything you hear, whether it's rumors or facts or reported from insiders, whatever, it's just that they're a complete disaster. And to successfully pull off a proper rebuild, you need great management and you need patience. And you have to have both. You can't just have a great manager who doesn't have patience or not patience or patience from at least management, right?
Yep.
Rebuild takes multiple years to go under. And if you have ownership that's rushing you, if you have ownerships that's telling you, hey, go and sign this free agent, we really want him, he's going to put people in seats or whatever, you're going to fail your rebuild because you're just not timing things properly. So I give GMs a little bit of a break because you don't know what's happening on the ownership side.
And that's the biggest failure. I think the biggest failure is not sticking to your plan. If you have a plan,
Yes.
if you're trying to rebuild, you have a 3 to 4 year window, let's say, to rebuild, and you might bring in some free agents here and there to speed it up, or you might make a couple of trades to speed it up. But if you don't stick to the plan, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot.
And I think that's what hurts them often because they'll have, in a rebuilding transition, sometimes you'll have a great year when you're not technically ready to have a great year. And then you
Yeah.
suddenly think, oh, well, we're way ahead of where we should be. And you start making moves like the Sabres did so many times to try to compete when you're clearly not ready.
And that's the same thing for fantasy GMs. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same lesson for fantasy GMs.
so I remember seeing a tweet about Gorton. I just saw it. So before he was with Rangers, he was with Boston. He was responsible drafting Phil Kessel, Milan Lucic, Brad Marchand, trading Raycroft for Tuukka Rask, and bringing Zdeno Chara and Mark Savard to Boston.
Don't remind me on that one.
So maybe in the Rangers organization was just an organization that wasn't ready to, like Eric says, to do the full rebuild. So they might have,
There's also a factor that like GMs move past their expiration date in terms of their talents and their ability to adjust to a new NHL. You look at a lot of GMs that were really successful decades ago. You want to go Trelly, you want to go Ken Holland or whatever. Yeah. These guys are just complete disasters in the modern NHL, but we're able to figure things out years ago, right?
What's it? Stan Bowman?
Bowman.
He's another.
We don't know what's happening with that Edmonton team, man.
And there's also two elements to a rebuild, right? There's the amateur scouting, and then once you're close to ready and you got to start adding to your team, there's the pro scouts. So sometimes the pro scouts will let you down and destroy what you built, which is what I like what Anaheim started to do. They brought in Kreider, they brought in Trouba. Seems to be going well, but
all I know is that we could probably talk about this forever.
Forever.
Like literally, we could talk about this forever. I was about to start going off on a tangent about another team, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should stop here. Like how's Philadelphia doing it? Anyways, we'll stop here and
tune in next time.
And
for episode
let's do this
2
again, man.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll go to round 2.
Fun.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun.
We'll even talk more fantasy stuff too, because I'm a big fantasy hockey nerd. I even wrote a whole ebook on it. So
really.
Yeah.
Where can we find this ebook?
This is in our link in bio. I'll send it to you guys if you guys want to.
Absolutely, I'm down to read that.
I'm down.
Yeah, it's like a 80-page ebook on all things fantasy hockey. So how to evaluate players, how to build up your lineups. It applies to everything, whether you're like a dynasty league, keeper league, whatever, or just a one-year league, whether it's points only, multi-cat, whatever. Full analysis on everything.
It's a religious book.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a religious book.
It's the Bible of fantasy hockey.
Fantasy hockey. That's what we call it.
When we said 360 degrees, they do everything.
They literally do everything. It's awesome. Guys, Eric, you want to give us one more time where people could find you?
Talking Hockey on any platform out there, any social media out there, you'll find us. Check out our Instagram stories if you're looking for like really in-depth player and team analysis, and check out our Reels videos if you want to laugh at Nick doing ridiculous shit on the ice.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. Anything else, Junior?
No, that's it. This was fun.
It was a lot of fun. I love this. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Guys, follow, like, subscribe. Give us, bring us to 200 viewers on YouTube. We're right there.
The subscribers?
Yeah, we're about 200.
Guys, you want?
Getting there.
What kind of key unlocks a banana?
Oh Jesus!
Oh my god.
A monkey.
Oh my god. This guy.
We started a new trend for dads jokes. Dad jokes at the end of every episode.
That was good.
Keeps us honest.
That was a good one.
Take care, Eric. Thank you.
Much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.